visitors of the Tianghe space station. They also set a new national record for the longest stay in outer space.
Right, and Yang Zhao, taikonauts actually comes from a Greek word, means space sailor. So those three space sailors are coming back home today. Actually, Shenzhou 12 is China's seventh manned space mission since the country's first such launch in 2003. It's also the third of 11 missions altogether to complete the construction of the Tianghe space station by 2022.
Yes, this is going to be a long process. And for more analysis of this, the procedure of the Shenzhou 12 return to Earth, and a prospect for China's space program, we're joined in the studio by Mr. Xu Yuansong, Director General of the Asia-Pacific Space Cooperation Organization, and Mr. Yang Guan of the China Aerospace Science and Industry Cooperation.
Welcome to our show. Well, the Shenzhou 12 crew is scheduled to touch down at the Dongfeng landing site in Inner Mongolia. Well, Dongfeng usually serves as a backup to Sizuwang Banner, also in the Inner Mongolia. It was where all of China's previous manned missions landed. Before today's landing, the Shenzhou 12 will circle around the Earth, and the re-entry capsule will separate from the orbital module. And after it enters the atmosphere, parachutes will open at 10 kilometers above ground to slow down the capsule. The Shenzhou 12's commander Nie Haisheng sent his greetings from space ahead of the return mission.
Shenzhou 12 has completed its 3-month mission in orbit and is about to return to the manned spacecraft. We give sincere thanks with deep respect to everyone involved in the mission for your support day and night. Salute.
Well, salute to them as well. And those three space sailors, the astronauts, were in China, taikonauts. Nie Haisheng, Liu Boming, and Tang Hongbo are just in time to reunite with their families for one of China's more popular holidays, the Mid-Autumn Festival. So, first of all, let's take a look at their profiles.
Nie Haisheng is one of the country's most experienced taikonauts, have been selected for the first batch of China's astronauts in 1998. The former fighter pilot from a farming family in Hubei province has now set a national record for the most number of days in space, more than 100 days. In 2005, Nie was a flight engineer on the Shenzhou 6, China's second manned spacecraft. 8 years later, on the Shenzhou 10, Nie was back in orbit, commanding a 3-member crew on a 15-day trip. As the commander of the Shenzhou 12, Nie provided support to the other two in completing their spacewalks. 55-year-old Liu Boming has become the first Chinese astronaut to conduct 3 extravehicular activities. Liu, who hails from the northern province of Heilongjiang, was also among China's first batch of astronauts. Along with Zhai Zhigang and Jing Haipeng, he was on board Shenzhou 7, which was launched in 2008. Shenzhou 7 was China's third main spaceflight, and also the country's first to have a 3-person crew. Liu also helped Zhai complete China's first spacewalk. 46-year-old Tang Hongbo made his space debut on the Shenzhou 12. The native from central Hunan province trained as an Air Force pilot in northwest China's Xinjiang region. He was later promoted leader of the flight brigade. In 2010, he was selected as part of China's second group of astronaut candidates. In 2016, Tang was part of the backup crew for the Shenzhou 11. After preparing for over a decade, Tang's dream has finally come true. During this mission, Tang performed his first spacewalk.
Well, welcome home ahead of the China's traditional holiday. The return of the capsule of China's Shenzhou 12 spacecraft will land at the Dongfeng landing site in northern China's Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region on Friday, carrying 3 Chinese taikonauts. Let's look at this, the introduction about this landing site.
This is the Dongfeng landing site, which has been selected for the return mission of the manned Shenzhou 12 capsule. Under China's space program, a landing site should meet certain requirements. First, the climate must be dry with little rainfall to ensure proper visibility. Second, the topography of the area must be relatively flat to allow for a wide view of the landscape. These allow the re-entry capsule to be tracked in real time and the search team to arrive quickly at the scene. The Dongfeng site meets all these and offers more. Located in the world's fourth largest desert, the Badain Jiran in northern China's Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, Dongfeng features many types of terrain, including lakes and grasslands. These allow China's space program to master landings in all types of environments, as well as improve joint search and rescue capabilities.
首次检验东风着陆场的航天员搜索救援能力。
The search capability of the Dongfeng landing site will be tested for the first time. The normal emergency search and rescue mode of the landing site system will be activated.
Carrying out the search and rescue are experts from the Zhouchuan Satellite Launch Center, which is close to the Dongfeng landing site. There they expect to face several challenges. These include vehicles potentially getting stuck in the sand, as well as unstable weather conditions. But the team says they're ready.
Our team has prepared for 21 years. We'll follow the return capsule wherever it goes. As soon as it lands, our team will arrive. We'll ensure the safety of the astronauts.
The Dongfeng site has conducted 2 previous landing missions. In 2016, it served as the landing site for a capsule from a Long March 7 carrier rocket. And in May 2020, the site received the capsule of the trial version of China's new generation manned spacecraft, which undertook a flight that took nearly 3 days.
Well, as we introduced earlier in the show, we are joined in the studio by Mr. Xu Yansong, the Director General of the Asia-Pacific Space Cooperation Organization, and our old friend, Professor Yang Yuguang from China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation. Gentlemen, welcome to our special coverage. Well, first of all, as we've seen in the previous story, that a special team was trained specifically for the recovery and rescue of the 3 astronauts. It is going to be a very tough, very difficult job to find this single module in such a vast piece of land. But what specific skills or scenarios do the rescuers or the specialists need to be trained?
Well, you see that the manned space engineering is a very huge system. It also includes many systems. For instance, launch site system, the rocket system, the spaceship system, and the landing site system is also a very big system. So not only, as you mentioned, the rescue teams are included, both the ground vehicles and also the helicopters, but also that we have many optical and radar to track the trajectory of the spacecraft. Although we have control. We have control to find accurate enough or precise enough landing point, but still, because of the disturbance, for instance, the wind and other factors, it cannot be as accurate at several meters. So to predict the trajectory of the vehicle, we also need the optical telescopes and also the radars to get the information, get the data to have a more precise prediction of the landing site. And this can be done for many times. And also, that for the rescue team, that because the astronauts stayed in the outer space already more than 3 months, and they have already adapted to the microgravity environment, so the readaptation of the Earth gravity is a very important issue. So after they have finding the landing site, they have to go to the landing point as soon as possible and taking the astronaut out of the re-entry capsule as soon as possible.
Okay, now we can see this live footage from, I think that was the angle from within this the re-entry capsule,
Right.
and we can see the 3 astronauts have been.
Kind of similar with the picture when they first entered module 3 months ago.
Exactly.
But with a different.
What is that? The same capsule? Is that the same capsule when they were?
Yes, you can see very interesting that on the right of screen we can have a microgravity indicator. So it is still floating. That means that they are still in the orbit.
Which one? Which one is the indicator?
On the right of the
one,
you can see the belt
one.
is floating.
Okay.
So they are now still in orbit.
And we're just told that this re-entry capsule has been prepared to re-enter to the Earth, and all of our rescue team and research team has been standing by in the Gobi Desert.
So
this is the most critical moment, as you might imagine a person who is shooting an arrow. This is the aiming point. Once you aim it and you shoot it, let it go, and the rest you have to take the drift. You don't have a control when it's a blackout entering from atmosphere, some 150 kilometers all the way to 40 kilometers before you get a signal. So this is the critical moment. The astronauts are maneuvering this vehicle to such an angle and pitch so that it can precisely enter into the atmosphere at the right point, at the right time, so that it can target the final landing site.
Yeah, you want to have this.
Exactly. So as Yansu mentioned, this is a very critical moment. You can see from the video that all three astronauts have already wear their IVA spacesuits, which means that at this point, if something dangerous happened, it can cause the depressurization of the cabin. So if they can have their IVA spacesuit, they can get a second protection for their lives. These kind of disasters.
How does this second protection work?
Because the cabin itself or the capsule itself provides the first protection to have pressure like we on the ground. So if there any leakage happened to the capsule, so their IVA spacesuits can provide the second protection. Because you know that in 1971, during the re-entry of the Soyuz 11 spacecraft, because the three cosmonauts has not wear a spacesuit, so the leakage due to the failure of the valve caused the loss of lives of the three cosmonauts. So after that disaster, all the re-entry capsules, no exception, all wearing the IVA spacesuits.
So the first act is of the whole returning process is being performed now to adjust its attitude.
And we can also see from this animation that I think that was the Tianhe space station is slowly adjusting.
It is the capsule itself, along with the service module and the propulsion module, and is adjusting its angle 90 degrees.
Preparing to shoot the arrow.
In fact,
no. Not yet.
Not yet.
As Yansu has mentioned, the first step will be the separation between the orbital module and the re-entry capsule. It has three modules. Okay, it's already separated, as indicated from the 3D animation.
It is separated in such an angle that is 90 degrees compared to its flight path. So it's a sagittal separation, and then there's a adjustment of a secondary adjustment to the capsule.
So this is the second adjustment already.
That separation was the first step.
So the spacecraft is not one piece. It's they have different stages, right? Just
three
like the
pieces.
Three pieces together.
Three modules.
So as we already seen from the 3D animation, the orbital module has already been separated. And the second step will be, as Yansu had mentioned, to continue to adjust its attitude. Now it's already completed. And the next step will be the ignition of the orbital control of our orbital maneuver engines, which has a thrust of 250 newtons. We will ignite two of these engines to change the orbit from the circular orbit to re-entry trajectory.
Let's say just to slow it down from 165 kilometers altitude, and then you slow it down, it starts to insert into the atmosphere.
So it's not directly dive into the Earth, but it's just gradually slower down their velocity and.
It's going to be a period that will have a direct impact, but it's in an angle. If it's go vertically, if the velocity is too much, and the heat would not be resisted.
Okay, the main engine is igniting, is working.
So during the whole process, they can actually move as they want, apart from the fact that they're strapped on their seats, of course. They won't just freeze there, right? In their seats. They can read or they can do everything they want.
Because the acceleration or the deacceleration is not very quick, not like the lift-off or the landing. So at this stage, it's not very uncomfortable for the astronauts. You can see from the screen that not only the main engine is working, but also the attitude control engines, some small rocket engines are also working to stabilize the attitude.
They want to fix them on a track, right?
Exactly.
In their orbit.
It has to be very precise.
And now it's braking, it's slowing down.
It's braking.
It's slowing down.
Yeah, it's slowing down.
How precise it is nowadays? It must be very different from before, from like the Russian spacecraft landing or U.S. spacecraft landing. Because I've heard that the Russian astronauts were given guns to stave off the bears if they had landed in the wilderness. Do you think this could possibly happen this time? To land out of Dongfeng?
Not
side.
this time, but like the Russian astronauts, we also have pistols or have guns in the cabin, because you know that in some uncertain case, in some emergency return, usually it is possible for us to land to some areas, some have wild animals. So to protect the safety of the astronaut, we must have these kind of measures.
You said very definitely not this time. Why?
Because this time you see that the as Yan Song have mentioned, the re-entry or the burning of the main engine is very accurate, and all are scheduled as a normal schedule. So probably speaking, it will land on the Dongfeng landing site.
Not only specific as Inner Mongolia, but as specific as this landing site.
Yes, the landing site, although the Dongfeng landing site is much larger, 10 times larger than the Stewang Banner landing site, but still it is a planned landing site. Not in the, for instance, in an emergency or abnormal case, it may be thousands of kilometers away from the normal landing site. So anything can happen. So they must have the ability to protect themselves.
How long will the whole process take, the returning process?
Usually less than half an hour. Great.
So the engine was
The main engine has been cut off.
cut off, right?
So the Shenzhou space, this means that the Shenzhou space is already in the re-entry trajectory.
Okay.
The
So
next
it's
critical step will be the separation between the re-entry capsule and the propulsion module.
I was told by the commander that later we are gonna stop here for a few moments, and we will be standing by. And we will be quickly going to the landing site. As you can see that early in the morning, you saw a lot of vehicles. They are lining up in this Gobi Desert. All the vehicles, they are following commands and orders, and they are also functional vehicles. As you know that we are now in this Gobi Desert. We are relying on satellite telephones because there are no telecommunications signals, and we are conducting this last round of checks. So the only thing that we can get connected with the outside world is the satellite communications vehicle, and that is able to receive signals from the outside. It can also send out signals from here. So it can guarantee smooth communication in terms of images and also sound. As you know, from Shenzhou 1 to Shenzhou 11, all the return capsules, they have been landed at the Sizhiwang site. But why we are choosing Dongfeng landing site for this time? And this is a vast Gobi Desert, and this is the most ideal landing site. And traditionally, it has been used as a backup site for the landing of Shenzhou spacecraft. Why it was not chosen as the landing site in previous missions? Because this is very close to a desert, and searching and tracking the capsule in a desert is very difficult, but with modern technologies we are able to track the trajectories of the return capsule in desert. And we have gone through a lot of missions, and we have dramatically improved our capacity. We have accumulated the experience. We are able to quickly locate this return capsule. So wherever they land, we will be able to arrive at the site immediately. And also this is chosen as so to minimize our impact on local economy, and also to preserve the ecosystem of the grassland. So that is why, starting from 2017, we have officially designated the Dongfeng landing site as the official landing site for China's manned space mission. And just now, as I learned from the command office, we are only 20 kilometers away from the core landing site. You can take a look at the landscape behind us. It's nothing but Gobi Desert, and it's an ideal place for landing of the return capsule, and we can very quickly arrive at the core landing site. All right, this is all from me. Back to the studio.
Right, that was our Mandarin counterpart of the China Media Group telling us more information about the Dongfeng landing site in Inner Mongolia. Well, this is actually the first time that a space module is going to land in a desert area. How challenging will that be?
It's not the first time they land in the desert area. We have always adopted the process of hard landing. In comparison with other countries like US, they use splashdown, landing on the ocean. China and Russia has always been a hard landing process. We land either on the Gobi Desert or on the desert itself. Even Sizhuang banner is a
Is it
desert
the first
area.
time for the manned module to land, to do the hard landing?
No, it's the manned mission has always had the hard landing in the whole process of Chinese space program.
Why?
Yes, because we're using the Inner Mongolia as a vast areas to land the astronauts, and that's more safe and easier to rescue, and the infrastructure is easier to access instead of using boats to search the ocean. So that is more practical at this moment. But for the first time, it is landing on the new landing site.
Now the commanding center is communicating with the 3 astronauts,
And
telling them
No.
Grand
The
controller
commander
forecast
is reporting
the
location,
the specific location,
the precise coordinates
right.
Of the vehicle.
Who are they telling?
This prediction will be performed several times. Each time will be more accurate because at this moment it still depends on the measurements on the inertial measurement unit on board the Shenzhou spaceship and also the signals from the Beidou navigation satellite. We can get the precise velocity and position of the vehicle. With this data, we can predict the landing point. So this moment, because after the burn of the main engine, we still need this kind of measurement of the accurate of the trajectory.
Are they also letting the astronaut know about the coordinates, about where they really are?
Not very necessary because it is the duty of the ground staff to go to their landing point as soon as
I would
possible.
like to know if I were the astronaut.
Well,
I would
that's
like to know.
communication
They
between the
will,
ground
because
controller.
that at this moment we still have communication link between the Earth and the astronauts. But several minutes later, they will go into the blackout area, and the communication will be blocked.
Okay, and that will be this communication between the ground controller and, basically with the rescue team, and so let them to know the precise location of the landing site.
As you have seen from the previous videos, at this moment we still have the video connections. The cameras mounted on the propulsion module can send back to the Earth either from the ground stations along the trajectory or from the Tianhe data relay satellite.
That's right.
So at this moment we can still have high bandwidth communications with the vehicle. But after the separation of the propulsion module and the re-entry capsule, we only have a small band communication link between the re-entry capsule and the ground stations.
Yes, during the whole process, we have been paid too much attention on this, on the astronaut, on the space station, but people just ignore. There's a lot of the other systems, like Beidou system, like Tianhe system you mentioned about.
But before we talk about Beidou system developed by our own scientific sector, let's talk to our reporter Sun Ye, who is now standing by at the Aerospace Control Center in Beijing. That's where the ground control and command center of the mission is based, and just reported this very precise coordinates of the space module. Sun Ye, so what can you tell us from there?
Hi there, Dongning and Yang Zhao. We are here at the Beijing Control Center, and we are transfixed looking at the live signals just now. And we've actually been here at the Beijing Control Center multiple times over the last 3 months over Taikonaut stay in the Tianhe module. And today is a little bit different. We've been here multiple times, including those memorable moments when they made that extended spacewalk over their stay, and many of the first attempts by Chinese taikonauts. But today it's still different. The anticipation is palpable here because finally they are coming back home. And the latest here from the Beijing Control Center, you probably heard a little bit earlier that the 3 taikonauts reported they are fine. And we've got Miss Wu Dawei. She's a deputy chief designer at the Astronaut system. She also told us a little bit earlier that the taikonauts are fine. They've actually been making preparations for the trip back home more than a month ago. They've started training, including the physical trainings for this trip back home. And she told us they've also made sure, like anyone going on a business trip, they've made sure that everything is put put back together at their home in space. And she said they've also made sure that even though their home in space will be unmanned for a while, it's going to run smoothly, even though nobody will be there. She also told us the whole astronaut system will be readying and doing more work, even when they come back safely. They say their next step, the major task for the astronaut system, is to make sure that the taikonauts recover and recuperate, and make sure they get in shape as early as possible, and even be in better shape, so that they could be able to go into another assignment in the future. But perhaps we're getting ahead of ourselves. For now, at the Beijing Control Center, as you are, everyone is anxious for their safe return. Dongning, Yang Zhao.
Yeah, we are looking for their safe return as well. Thank you very much, Sun Ye, reporting from the commanding center. Well, now let's get back to our studio guests, Mr. Yang Yugang and Mr. Xu Yansong. Well, when they come back, because our reporters mentioned the possible health changes or health conditions when they come back, and they need time to recover indeed. And the first thing they will find is probably that they're going to be higher than before, like by 5 centimeters or even 7 centimeters temporarily, although. So what are the changes are they going to face?
Well, you see, you're very correct. So the astronauts will be taller after they come back, but this will be return to their original height maybe several months later. This is due to influence of the microgravity. You may notice that just before the leaving of the Shenzhou 12 crew, that as the last several days before their return, they have to more exercises and more intensive than the ordinary days. This is because that during the ordinary days, we only need maybe 2 hours of physical exercise to keep them healthy, to prevent the attenuation of their muscles and the loss of bones or calcium from their bones. But after re-entry, just before the re-entry, they have a very challenging task for them to readapt the gravitational field. So it is required for them to do more these kind of exercises, much longer and much more intensive than the days before. So this can help them to readapt the gravity as soon as possible. But still, they are dangerous. As Sun Ye mentioned, the ground staff will take them out, not by the astronauts themselves. So, but in emergency cases, for instance, if the landing is not so accurate, they must help themselves. In this case, they will go out of the hatch by themselves. So you can still see the image or the video from the re-entry capsule. This is inside the cabin. So now the Shenzhou spaceship is orbiting the Earth just above the African continent, and soon they will entering the space just above the Indian Ocean, and at the altitude about 140 meters, there will be another critical step. Will be the separation between the propulsion module and the re-entry capsule. So only the re-entry capsule will be returned. And you see that now we can see the videos.
What will happen to the propulsion module? Right.
It will be burned and deorbited. So nothing will be dropped to the ground. No one will be hurt, but it will burn in the atmosphere.
Good to know that.
Well, that was a quite small capsule.
Yeah. Now we can still see the video because you know that we have a big antenna on the propulsion module, so it can send the videos from the spaceship to the Tianhe data relay satellite and then to the ground. So we can still see that.
Is this capsule going to be reused, or is it still a one-time?
Actually speaking, our next generation, the manned spaceship, will be reusable, and it can take up to 6 to 7 crew. And also, it is potentially speaking, it is possible for it to have lunar missions, manned lunar missions.
I hope they got a larger room and a larger seat.
Yeah, Yaping, also my friend, has showed her wish to the media that she wants to walk on the moon in the future.
And the footprint on the moon will never be abolished. Will be there almost forever.
Exactly, because it is in a vacuum condition, and it can stay there for billions of years.
I think all of our 3 astronauts are expecting to go home as quick as possible, but
to eat mooncakes.
It's not. Yeah, but it's not as convenient as catch a plane or catch a train.
Right.
You need a
No
lot of
timetable.
you need a lot of the preparation before you started the entry procedure. So, what preparation have been made for return, Mr. Chu? Can you just walk us through this?
Well, I think as Yang Guang mentioned that the astronaut would have experienced bone loss as well, cardiovascular damages, and also I still remember one of the astronauts from U.S. He said he came back after about 800 days of space inhabitants, and he said he went on foot massage, and the massager said they have never seen such a tender
They
foot.
actually seldom use their food.
They never use their foot.
They're always
So it was very
floating.
tender after 800
Right.
days. So I imagine they also have the same experience. And also, as Professor Yang mentioned, that the next step would be the separation of the propulsion and the capsule itself. So it's going to be happening very quickly, and it's a next big moment. And after that, the capsule will start its free fall and blackout starting from 100 kilometers altitude all the way to 40 kilometers, and then descending to 10 kilometers before they deploy the parachute. So these are the sequence, and just before landing they will also drop the heat shield, which is protection of the thermal protection of the capsule itself. So, yeah.
The whole procedure just to kick off today, but all 3 astronauts have been standing by in the re-entering capsule just a few days ago, right?
They
thought
have
it was
left
on Wednesday,
yes,
or
They have left the
Thursday.
station yesterday, so they will stay in the Shenzhou space for more than 30 hours. Now you see that the Shenzhou spaceship is just above the Arabian Sea. And just near the Red Sea, so the separation is closing. You can see that, as Yan Song have mentioned, it has orbit light attitude maneuver. So the separation will happen between the propulsion module and the re-entry capsule. This is to avoid the collision, the potential collision during the re-entry, because they have, theoretically speaking, both the 2 modules have the same trajectory.
They will feel a huge gravitational pressure when re-entry capsules enter atmosphere.
Exactly.
But that is not the only uncomfortable things that they will encounter.
There are 2
right?
things, as you're correct. The one is G load, usually 3 to 4 times than its own mass. And the second is violent vibration. Also, because due to the interaction between the vehicle and the atmosphere, so the aerodynamic forces to cause the very violent vibration during the re-entry. And also, as you mentioned, the G load 3 to 4 times, so it's not very comfortable. But fortunately, it's not very long. It will only last for several minutes.
I think there's a lot of. They're still waiting for
the separation.
Separation.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of procedure before they left the Tiangong core
Exactly.
module.
There are so many procedures, and each one is very critical for their safety.
So when we mention the separation this time, is it the second separation?
second one.
Second one.
The first one is the second
from the propulsion module.
Yes, this time is the separation of the propulsion module. The first one, as we have seen, is the separation of the orbital
From the
module.
orbital module.
Yes.
So the orbital module will remain in orbit for a period of time, and the propulsion module, in fact, is like a car brake, and you step on it, it slows down the car. So this is the same thing. It slows down the capsule until the speed where it can properly enter the atmosphere.
Before they left, they have also carried out on Thursday. They have also carried out the R-bar rendezvous test. Tell us more about that. What's this test about?
Yes, there's the
Radial?
separation. Yeah, there was first this astronauts before they returning, they have to lock down everything inside the capsule, and then they enter this capsule. Along with the propulsion and service module, it performed a maneuver to have a radial connection or remote connection, so as to simulate the future construction of the station and docking and rendezvous. And then they would also maneuver to the front of the station to perform a number of telemetries and what we call flyby maneuvers. And flyby is to check the status and the altitude and everything. And then the capsule itself has to maneuver and to readjust its altitude and controls so it can start the landing sequence. So that lasts from yesterday all the way to today, where you just now saw the separation from the orbit module with the return capsule. So now we're in the second stage, which is we're expecting the propulsion module to be separated from the capsule, and then after that we'll have a free fall into atmosphere. That would last all the way from 100 kilometers to 40 kilometers, where the capsule has to resist very intensive heat and plasma. But because of the plasma, the communication would be cut off inside the capsule into the ground and control and others. So we're looking forward to see that the propulsion capsule will be separate very soon. So that will be the last time they have the chance to maneuver.
We're told the separation is going to happen in about 2 minutes. And after that, it's going to enter the blackout zone, right?
Not so quick. They will go into the final adjustment. The capsule also have some adjustment capabilities. And then they will adjust its angle and pitch so that it has to return to the Earth with a spiral motion so as to slow down the capsule as much as possible from 7 kilometers all the way to 7 kilometers per second all the way to 500 meters per second.
Okay. Although blackout zone is expected in their training, but still it must be kind of horrible for any human being.
And we're gonna lost communication.
You may watch the movie Apollo 13,
right?
Because you know that they came back from the moon in a very abnormal condition, so the blackout area lasted longer than ordinary conditions. So all the people are very nervous. Were very nervous about but finally they made it. Also, although during the blackout area we don't have communication with the spacecraft, but still we can track the spacecraft, track its trajectory from the ground. Yes, exactly, from the radars. So we can still see that. And as Yan Song has mentioned, the separation happened at the altitude about 140 kilometers. Oh, it's already separated.
Right.
Great. We can see that this is a 3D animation. So this is the re-entry capsule itself. This means that the propulsion module has already been separated.
This module is going to be the one that all the recovery and rescue team going to look for.
All three astronauts are inside this cabin.
And then now the capsule it's about to pick up the right angles to dive in, right? They don't want to. You don't want to be too shallow. You don't want to be too stiff.
It still needs some attitude maneuver or adjust its attitude, because now it is not in the right attitude for the
adjusted automatically
to the bottom, to the front.
See, the black part is the heat resistant. Well,
the
we'll call it heat shield. A heat shield has to be facing downward.
So you can see the dark area is the heating shield, which will be finally jettisoned after the deployment of the parachute.
Can the fireball be seen?
Oh yes. We do also have infrared cameras on board, so on the ground, so that it can be seen even during the blackout period.
Okay.
So now the whole separation is completed, right?
What Dongning have asked is very professional. You know that there is a
重新报告，空中分队到达待命空域，报告完毕。
北京明白。
The rescue helicopter has get to its right position.
What does it mean?
It means that, as we have already noticed, the commander announced the predicted location of the landing point. So after this prediction and the broadcasting this information, all the teams on ground will prepare for this. So they will get to the predicted point as soon as possible.
The propellant capsule.
Okay. The ground station in Kashi has already found our target.
They have already spotted this.
Pretty quick.
Yeah, Kashgan is the most west part of China, so that means that they have seen this.
So actually, they're coming from
the
southwest,
from the west,
from the west
to the east. So now they may be somewhere in Maybe above India?
Above, yes, southwest. So
Southwest.
it's a bit.
So how big is this returning module?
The diameter is more than 2 meters, about 2.3 meters. So it's very narrow for 3 astronauts.
Yes, it is, especially with the
not
heavy
comfortable
space
for them
suits.
to
So
sit
that
inside.
is why the upper limit for the astronaut is about 1.8 meters. If you are too low, if you are too tall, you lost the chance to become an astronaut.
They had a lot of great foods up there in the space station, so that's why they needed a lot of exercise, not only to recover their muscle, but to keep
Yes.
fit.
It's like the size of a small car. It's roughly
Right.
2 metric
right.
tons. Yes.
And
So
then,
if you are too heavy, the velocity when come back will be faster. It will be more dangerous.
黄河双补完成。
and you're now watching this, the footage captured by the helicopter above the landing site. They're patrolling above the landing site.
But in fact, there are a total of 5 helicopters. They're flying in a square model, square mode. Each corner of the square have 1 helicopter. So they're expecting the capsule to land on the middle of the square. So they're so that
So
they
if
can
everything
shrink.
goes well, they're going to land in the middle of there.
So that they can shrink their search areas.
Everything is going to go well.
So you can
Let's
see
hope.
the weather today. This is a video from the helicopter, and the weather in the Dongfeng landing site is very good today. So it's a very good day for coming home.
That's right.
What would happen? What do they prepare for the bad weather scenario?
Well,
for
you see,
instance,
that's
raining or-
the most critical thing is, as we have already discussed, the prediction of the trajectory to get the precise landing point. And also, you know that just 1 day before the landing, it will be reported. If there are too strong wind, we will choose another time or another location for this landing, because wind is a very critical factor, especially after deployment of the parachute. So this is very, as you know that in the future, because the China space station will have astronauts very continuously. So in emergency cases, if they need to escape from the station, they can go back to the Earth at any moment. So there is a standing by of the rescue team, not like before. So they will have the capability to stay, to be standing by very often.
东经幺洞洞度洞
Now
3
the
分
location of
33
their
秒
landing site has
落点纬
been
度北
reported.
纬41
So that would be
度
the second.
36 分
This is the second
49 秒
time
北纬
forecast.
41度36分
Yes,
49
because of the
秒北京
altitude
第二次落点预报发出
of the
雄鹰
capsule, the location, the exact location is very dynamic. So it has a constant updating of the location so as to prepare the search and rescue team. You can see the square areas so that they're expecting it to land inside the square.
So what
正
kind
确
of
猛士
situation are the 3 astronauts
华山
feeling while this returning module is descending at a very high speed?
Well, they will, as we have directed, they will have the feeling of the 3 or 4 other people on about his body. So this is the G load of the overload and the violet vibration, and also they can see the flames from the window outside their capsule. This is because of the friction of the high speed of the vehicle, and also the burned ablative material from the body of the capsule. You know that during the first manned mission, Mr. Yang Liwei was frightened because he sees that there are fractions on one window. He thought it will have a failure, but he saw that there are another ones also the same situation. So don't worry. It's very interesting.
He didn't know, right? I read his book. I read his book about his experience in the outer space and coming back, etc. And he said one thing, he felt excited, of course, seeing the scenery that nobody could even imagine to see. And the second is loneliness. It felt like he was there alone, of course, but still in the outer space, you know, it's different from the human world.
Oh, now we can see that the optical telescopes on the ground has already captured the re-entry capsule.
And we are eyewitnessing this, the re-enter capsule.
Indeed.
Is flying over our head.
Probably, as Yan Song mentioned, maybe this is the infrared video.
The infrared video. This is still too high, right?
Because it's, the capsule is in friction with the atmosphere. It's very high temperature. So infrared is easier to capture.
Are they going to see the flash in their eyes, just like the Apollo astronauts coming back from the moon?
Well,
Yes.
it is traveling at a very high speed, but how high?
Usually, after touching down on the ground, there will be beacons and also the radio signals to help the rescue teams to find them as soon as possible. But I believe that at this moment, they are still in the blackout area because of the high speed and high temperature.
So speed is roughly 7 kilometers per second.
Per second.
So we're using the atmosphere to slow it down. So once it's out of the blackout period, it will be 500 meters per second. And before we deploy the parachute.
Right.
Very fortunately, we have a thick atmosphere to slow them down. Not in this the Tianhe one in our Mars probe when they're just trying to enter the pretty thin atmosphere on Mars.
But you can also imagine that the atmosphere is thicker when it's closer to the Earth. So if it's above 10 or 20 kilometers, there's very little atmosphere.
So it's very high speed. Our audience a sense of how fast this 7 kilometers a second is. For instance, more than 2,000 kilometers from Beijing to Xinjiang, so it would take about more than 200 seconds. That's
let's say every 90 minutes it circles the Earth. Every 90 minutes.
All right.
So it's 92 or 93 minutes. It's around the Earth. So in 1.5 hours, it can travel around the Earth.
So during the whole mission, they can watch the sightseeing of the Earth more than 300 million square meters. So there are so many sightseeing. They have plenty of chance to visit all these kind of sightseeing of the world. Very fantastic.
I got this question. How does this capsule just keep balance when they're in the middle of the sky?
First, it has
preventing them from tipping.
Aerodynamic shape can keep it stable. This is the first one. And also, that there are very small rocket engines on this re-entry capsule. So it can not only keep, but also adjust its attitude. Because that we choose a semi-lift or semi-ballistic re-entry. With this measure, we can control the trajectory by changing the attitude.
That's right.
And then we change the direction of the lift forces. And then it can be, the trajectory can be adjusted.
So bear in mind, if you don't control it properly, it can bounce off from the atmosphere.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what we did.
If you're diving too shallow, you could be bounced out by the atmosphere.
That's what we did with the lunar mission. The lunar sample return mission used the atmosphere to slow it down by bouncing ones.
Yeah.
But please notice that the most important difference is that it is a manned mission. So during the design of the trajectory, the G load is a limitation. It should not be so high.
Even though they're well trained.
For the sample return mission is a different matter. It can be as high as maybe more than 8 or 10 times its own mass.
So like as they say, they're experiencing many Gs like elephant on the chest.
Yes.
But that's only 4G, but the maximum human body can tolerate is 12 Gs. And beyond that, you don't survive.
Well,
yes.
Think about taking a huge roller coaster.
But Yan Song has mentioned that happened before. During the first and the second launch many missions of the United States, they chose a suborbital one. So the astronauts experienced the 10 times the 10G on their body. And also, just several years before, because the Soyuz MS-10 mission have some failure of the rocket itself, so there is an emergency re-entry, and the two astronauts experienced this kind of G load during the re-entry.
So it seems that this module, is it a fireball yet? Not yet.
It is a fireball.
It is a fireball already. Has been locked by several teams.
It's about to leave the blackout zone very quickly.
So,
and now we can see this approaching.
We saw the videos, and the tracking from the ground is very important. We've already heard that the commander has already announced 2 times the prediction of the landing point. So it will be more and more accurate as it go along the trajectory. And finally, after deployment of the parachute, it will depend on the wind. Because the wind will influence the landing point.
The parachute. Is it a parachute?
No, the signal has been received by the ground briefing.
Yeah, this is the parachute. This is not the infrared
Oh, we've
camera.
already heard the voice of Mr. Nie Haisheng.
Oh my God! So excited.
The communication has been restored and a parachute has been deployed.
Yeah.
There will be a leading parachute, the acceleration parachute, and finally the main parachute.
There are two parachutes.
So this is not the main parachute yet.
Not yet.
What's the function of the first parachute?
So the leading parachute will get all the parachute out of its cabin, and the second one to reduce the speed to a safe level for the main parachute, and then the deployment of the main parachute with an area of more than 1,200 square meters, very, very huge. And you have already read the book of Mr. Yang Yimei. He said that there were great impact when the main parachute is deployed.
Yes.
Boom.
Yes.
Now the astronauts can feel the gravity.
Oh my God! I think the moment when the communication resumed, all the three astronauts would feel excited as we were.
So now 3 astronauts is going to feel much more comfortable than the previous
Yes.
three.
less
right?
And the next
Less comfortable,
and the
yes.
next critical step will be the jettisoning of the heating shield because it is no longer needed.
Yes.
And after jettisoning of the main heating shield, the 4 retro rocket engine will be exposed. So just before landing, and also we have a very important procedure to read the seats of the astronauts.
Yep.
So all the vehicles are rushing to the assumed spot that the module is going to land.
The retro rockets are going to help this capsule to touch down very gently.
And now they're giving a third prediction of the landing site, more exact.
And now this time, this location is going to be very precise.
But also,
wind. This is very.
There's also a stratosphere
Yes.
wind and also atmosphere wind.
So with the deployment of the main parachute is already very safe for them. Just the next step, although it's very critical, but maybe if it is abnormal, maybe they will hurt, but they will at least we can save their lives. To the ground.
So during the blackout zone, beforehand, are they in the coma? Were they in the coma or are they?
No, they're sober.
Sober. Okay.
The blackout just means their communication blackout, not
Or the
their.
communication blackout,
And
not
they're
mind
seeing the
blackout.
fires all over.
Yeah.
Okay, but no
outside the
communication
window.
with the Earth.
Outside the window, but they cannot feel any. But this can they just feel warmer than?
They're in the suit. The suit
they're in
is,
the suit.
temperature adjusted. Yeah.
That's very interesting because Mr. Yang just mentioned they're wearing the IVA suit and they also have EVA suits. They're going to bring 2 suits?
EVA spacesuits is much more expensive and much more complex.
Yeah,
so
that's
we
for
only
the
have
spacewalk.
2 EVA spacesuits brought to the Tianhe module by the Tianzhou 2 cargo ship. So it will stay in orbit because it can be reused for 15 times. So I believe that the next Shenzhou 13 crew will also have EVA.
That's right.
With these
The heating shield has been getting rid of.
Oh, as I have mentioned, the heating shield has already been successfully jettisoned. You can see the red and white belt of the main chute. This is to help the ground team to find it more
So
easy.
it's a kind of standard design,
Yeah, like a target.
like a target.
Exactly. In professional
Bullseye.
words, it is a target
Bullseye.
for the ground tracking radars and for the telescopes.
Yeah, on the screen of the radar is just a spot.
Yeah.
It's just a
Well,
target.
of course, they are going to land very precisely at Dongfeng land, but we just mentioned that previously Russian astronauts were given shotguns to stave off bears if they had landed in wilderness. Were Chinese astronauts given any such weapons?
Yes, of course. Because you know that's
Before that, we heard astronauts
feel bad.
feel very good, telling the commanding center that they are feeling very good. It's very nice to hear from you. I sincerely say that.
That means the physical exercise works.
It works.
Back to gravity field.
So they don't. Do they equipped with weapons?
Yes.
To prepare for any emergencies?
Yes, that's for it is a standard configuration for any re-entry capsule because you cannot ensure that all is a normal procedure. In abnormal procedure, they can land to anywhere. So maybe in the forest, maybe there are wild animals. They must have the ability to protect themselves.
Right.
The capsule will be landing within 5 minutes. Now we can see this. The capsule is falling down in a pretty slow pace.
They're like yo-yo.
One side to the other. Taking a swing.
But without that stroke, that rope.
I believe they can share the Mid-Autumn Festival with their family.
Of course, I think the families have already prepared mooncakes for them. It's a family reunion occasion. How amazing
as a
is
little
that?
girl, Yaping likes the sweet food. So I believe, and also she expressed her wish to walk on the moon. I believe it will be better for her to eat mooncake on the moon.
What is
And they're giving the beacons like
all right.
signals.
Also, this is
to let them know. To let them
this is a release of the propellant. This is a release of the propellant because that during the re-entry we need the propulsion system to adjust its attitude. So at this moment the propellant is no longer needed, and because that the propellant is toxic, so we release to make it safe for the rescue teams.
Where is it going? The toxic propellant.
It will dissipate it in the atmosphere. No harm to anybody.
Okay, great.
Because the density will be very low. And also, that we use gamma ray altimeter to measure the distance between the vehicle and the ground. And just 1 meter above the ground, the retro rocket will ignite it to slow it down to about 2 meters per second. And because of the radiation, so we need a lead cover for the ground team to cover the gamma ray altimeter to protect all the ground crew from the radiation. So this is also a very important procedure after touchdown.
That is also a very, can I say it's a mature technology for China because we have been used at retro rockets to slow them down and for a touchdown for many times. No matter on the moon, on the Mars, and on Earth.
It's different.
It's different?
That's on the moon, because there is no atmosphere, the whole procedure have powered or the propelled descent. While on the atmosphere is quite different because the Earth has the atmosphere is thick enough. Well, on the Mars it will be a quite different matter. It's more complex than landing on the Earth or landing on the moon because you must combine the heating shield, the supersonic parachute, and the retro rocket trailer. The tracking is normal.
So who is talking? It should be Nie Haisheng, right?
It's from the ground staff.
From the ground staff.
Because they have the duty, the responsibility to charge the tracking readers and the tracking optical sensors to keep the target, keep our target.
Well, I think this time they have a good landing that the rescue team should be very close by.
That's right.
To get them.
They have already located them right before they touch down on ground. The rescue team is on their way.
And that just several days before, a reporter from CCTV just had a communication with Mr. Nie Haisheng just several days before, and they will rendezvous at this Dongfeng landing site.
Really?
And also, Mr. Liu Boming made some paintings during his spare time in space, and he mentioned that he will bring these paintings back to the Earth and give it as gifts to maybe students in Hong Kong or other primary schools.
That's right. And also, there are stunning pictures they took from the space station.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
I think everybody has a dream of traveling in space, at least. But it's a privilege of very few now, at the moment at least.
This is because the cost for orbital travel is still more than 10 million US dollars at current stage. So it's still they are also talking about the orbital space tourism. This do happen several times before. From 2001 to 2009, there are 7 people 8 times visited the International Space Station. And just yesterday, the 4 crew from the Inspiration 4 go to outer space by the Dragon spaceship. So the 4 tourists are still all civilians. Astronauts were still in space now.
We're told the retro rocket is going to ignite it anytime soon. It'll
Just-
be very close to the ground.
Just before the re-entry of our Shenzhou 12 crew, there were 14 people in outer space. The whole
in the history.
it makes the history.
In the retro rocket, you won't see it firing. You just see a smoke out of coming out of the ground. Just 1 meter. It's like an air cushion.
Oh, there's just the air cushion. Right. So I think
The main parachute can reduce the speed of the vehicle from more than 200 meters per second to about 6 meters per second.
Oh.
And then with, as Yan Song has mentioned, the retro rocket, we can reduce that to 2 meters per second.
And that retro rocket was also adopted by other companies like Blue Origin. They are using the retro rocket to land their capsule as well.
It seems that everything is stable at the moment. So everything is going on very well.
Yeah, you know that's the Tianhe data relay satellite. Not only can transmit videos from the spacecraft, but can also transmit videos from the helicopters to the commander.
So China has achieved the very complete set of mechanisms in terms of space operations like this.
Exactly.
With Beidou, with Tianhe.
Yes. With the Beidou navigation system, we can have very precise locations and the velocity and also timing of the spacecraft. And with Tianhe, we can have almost 100% coverage of all its space missions. And also, the Tianhe can also help the ground teams for the moving vehicles, either a ground vehicle or a helicopter, to get connections to the command center.
So you can see the image is very close to the ground because you can see the top of the parachute as it's yo-yo's
各号注意，我是北京。
So you see
下面
also
通报
images from
返回舱第
helicopters.
4次落点预报，落点经度东经幺洞洞度动4分34秒，东经幺洞洞度动4分34秒，落点纬度北纬
The ground
41
controller has
度
been
3拐
reporting
分23秒，
the
北
location
纬
site
41度3拐分
the first time
23秒，北京第4次落点预报已发出，雄鹰。
So this is the first time the chief commander broadcasting the coordinates, the precise coordinates, because at this moment the position of the vehicle is influenced by the wind. So we must get a very precise measurement of the wind speed and direction.
So they will keep reporting about the specific coordinates until they land, right?
Yeah. Just before the landing, according to the broadcasting from the commander, the ground team, including the helicopter, will go to the predicted point, so they can get the they can reach the astronauts as soon as possible.
So you can see some of the tracking stations has turned off because it's below the horizon. It's very close to the ground, and it has been visible by the helicopters and the rescue team already on the ground.
But it will not be landing as an airplane to slide into the runway, right? It will just also hit hard.
Vertically.
Yeah.
And once they touch down, the parachute cord needs to be cut off immediately.
Exactly. So it will be cut off automatically or manually. That depends on the real situation on the ground. So it is also a very critical procedure because with influence of the wind, maybe the capsule can be dragged.
They can blow them away.
Yeah,
You just saw it's coming down.
Oh, great!
Yes,
my
that's the ritual.
返回舱着陆，
The capsule has been tested.
Retro rocket, yes.
北京明白。
So welcome home, Nie.
Welcome home.
I met
Oh my
him
God!
twice.
You don't know
before.
how excited I am.
东风，我是北京。
东风到。
Wow, this is
返回舱 已着
another
陆，
historic
后
moment
续
in China's
由东
space
风
history.
按计划
Oh,
组织
it
搜救回收
touched
工作。
down vertically.
Vertically?
Yes.
Which is correct.
Sometimes it will be light on the ground.
So
it's also a very common.
the astronauts will feel very much a lot of pressure when the motor touch down vertically, hit on the ground very hard.
That's what I mentioned, the readaptation of the ground gravity. So it needs time for them. So usually in ordinary procedure, they will be with the help of the ground team to get them out of the cabin.
Right. The ground team will enter module and carry them out, right?
So you can, at this moment, you've already seen the capsule. Very, very precise.
Right.
So I believe that is the image from the helicopter. Now the ground vehicles are also approaching.
There's the helicopter above this head, and the parachute has been caught up.
Yes. So this is a video from the helicopter.
Helicopter.
You can see already. You can see the
So the
parachute.
target has been specifically, very precisely locked already.
So second after landing, the helicopter is already going to land.
It took less time than we expected.
Because of the forecast, it's very constantly updating and forecast. So the search and rescue team are able to find it.
So this 90-day mission in China's 7th and longest human spaceflight mission is concluded.
What they need to do now is to readjust the gravity environment.
We just wait for the ground teams, and they will prepare chairs for them.
Right, right.
They say they prepared some nice lunch with noodles. Because there's
Why
a Chinese
noodles?
tradition that when you
Ah,
depart,
right. When
you
you
eat
welcome
dumplings.
back somebody.
Yeah,
Yes.
so they've already ordered
Did
noodles.
they eat dumplings when
Yeah,
they
they eat dumplings before they go, and
before they go?
And noodle is also easy to digest. I think it's much better for them to.
Yeah.
But Yan Song has mentioned is the choice of Mr. Liu Boming, not the other two. Because they come from different places. Boming is from the northeast China, and Mr. Nie Haisheng is native of Hongbo province. Mr. Hongbo,
No, I should also mention about
So
noodle. He wants to say
the only
something.
difference may be the hot noodles or noodles without
More
chilies.
spicy.
Oh, the rescue team has arrived.
Yep.
The search team
They,
is approaching the landing
Yeah,
location.
we've already
They're-
seen the ground staff.
东风报告，我是北京，东风请
So
讲。
in 3 months, first sight of another human being apart from the three.
And Mr. Nie Haisheng is the first Chinese astronaut stayed more than 100 days in outer space.
Right.
北京
So
明
it's
白。
not vertically landed. I see it's on the belly.
Just lie
the
down.
belly.
Yeah.
Lay it down.
So now everybody just lying down now?
They're, in fact, if he land vertically, it should be lying down. So that could be sideways or front, you don't know.
Sometimes it's upside down.
But anyway, they were strapped.
Yeah.
They were strapped.
So they have
The
safety belts.
importance
Is there
of
any
the safety
is there any
belt.
window on the capsule so they
They
can just
have a
look
window,
outside?
but because you know during the burning, maybe the
Now it's black.
It's not transparent.
Yes.
It's always important to fasten your seatbelt.
Yes, exactly.
Now, yeah.
And you can see that there are also a little amount of cargoes just around the astronauts. That's what we mentioned. That maybe some blood samples they have taken in the outer space, and other biological
Oh, they would
samples.
take that sample immediately
Yes,
as soon as they land on the.
Yeah. So this is for the scientific research.
Right. The change of height is, of course, only temporary. Are there going to be any permanent changes to their body?
According to the history of human missions, they do have this kind of change, but maybe it's hard to describe what kind of parameters of the human body were changed. You know, that's according to the European standards, the radiation received by astronauts should not be greater than 1,000 millisievert during the whole career.
Right. So the staff are now examining the outside layer of this
the
module.
helicopter has already reached another helicopter.
And 5 helicopters, actually, 5 of them will be
So all three
landing
will be,
near the side.
will be taken away on the helicopter to. No.
The capsule itself will be transported by truck.
And what about the astronauts? They're taking the helicopter back to the base, or?
It will transport it back to Beijing. And we have every time usually we have a open hatch ceremony because it will be sealed after the astronaut get out.
Okay.
And it will be sealed, and the gifts from maybe during the ceremony it will be taken out from the capsule. And
Although
distributed.
they are coming back from outside China, but since it's outer space, there is no coronavirus. So are they going to need to be quarantined? I guess not.
I guess not. But they will go through quarantine anyway.
Right.
They've already
And they don't need
quarantined for 3 months.
to go through customs either, right? To declare anything that they brought back.
Yeah.
But before the launch, they do have a quarantine process.
Right,
to make
right,
it
that's
safe.
right.
But as you asked, they've already quarantined in space for 3 months.
But the important thing is the crew needs to be well prepared and well quarantined.
And the next crew will be 6 months.
If everything just go well, how long will they take to recover the whole back to the health conditions? Or get used to the
It
Earth?
depends. For different people, for different missions, it's different. You know, I can still remember during the return of the Shenzhou 11 mission, Mr. Jing Haipeng can even stand on the ground transporting vehicle. So he's in a very good condition.
So he can actually walk out by himself, right? They don't have to be.
Generally speaking, he can do so. He could do so. But usually for a normal procedure, it is suggested to
They have to
find
follow
the ground staff.
They have to follow the rules. Step by step.
Not only rules, are there going to be any consequences if they insist on walking
They
by
have a
themselves?
standard consistency. For instance, Yan Xiao has mentioned it's in lying down attitude. Also, for vertical touchdown, they will have a kind
They're
of
about to
shelf.
open the door.
The hatch.
The hatch.
The hatch.
The front hatch.
There's a special person needs to be there to be present to open the hatch.
You may notice that
Not
they wear their suits, their uniform in different colors. So the different person have different roles. Some will take care of the health, and called the medicine monitoring the health condition of the
hatch is open. The hatch is open, and I assume they're talking to the astronaut inside. To confirm.
This is really compared with the space, a tiny little thing dropping from outer space containing 3 people inside.
Very, very small.
Compare
very,
with
very
the rescue staff, this is not that
about
big.
2.3 meters, as I
Right,
mentioned, the
it's
diameter.
like what Mr. Xu said, it's a small vehicle, small car.
The total mass is about 3 tons, the capsule, including the mass of the 3 astronauts.
Right,
Because that was just a re-entering capsule. They have to get rid of the much larger capsules, two other capsules in the outer space.
And you may notice that all the ground staff approaching the vehicle from the front direction, not from the bottom, because we have a gamma ray altimeter, so it has radiations. Only after the one of the a certain ground staff will cover the gamma ray altimeter with the lead cover. Only at this moment they can approach from the back.
So when you talk about the health of the astronauts, it's like you submerge into water for 3 months, and so you have experienced bone loss and muscle losses, and you do exercise to maintain the muscle level. But if you insist on walking yourself, or at the very beginning, you might have a very friction of the bone because you don't have enough muscle to support it. So there are many health conditions that is not to be experienced. So they will be chaired and carried.
That's right. And not to mention, this is the longest mission ever in China's space flight history. They have to spend 90 days. It's not just a...
So it's unprecedented.
That's right. It's not like in a previous mission, they just spent like 10 days or fewer days. But they spend 3 months in the space.
Speaking, they would take a week or two to gain back their strength and to start functioning.
And there's still inspection.
As we hear from the voice of the commander, that they are checking the leakage of the hydrazine.
The hydrazine.
Hydrazine is a propellant used by the re-entry capsule, and it's toxic.
That's what their spacesuit is preventing.
No. This is just outside the pressurized zone of the capsule. For the propulsion system, it's the propellant of the propulsion system for the rocket engines, and it's toxic. So we must check the leakage.
It's for the sake of the ground crew.
Right? It's safe for the rescue people, right?
Also, that for the space shuttle of the United States and other spacecraft also have these kind of similar procedures. Because until today, the most convenient use propellant is still the toxic propellant.
Has such situation ever happened?
No, any disaster happened before, because this is a very normal procedure for all of these spacecraft.
So now the ground crew is checking the exterior of the module and make sure the astronauts
we can
are
see
safe
that
before they
on the side of the re-entry capsule is in a very dark color because it has been burned, the ablative material.
我吹吹好，请问你笑声怎样？
我听你声音也好。
明白。
So the
the sounds of the astronaut.
yeah.
The voice of.
So we can
The
hear
sound,
that.
the sound was very solid, very powerful.
Very powerful, and the accent is like the, because you know I am a native of in Mongolia. So that is my also a native of my homeland.
That's accent that you're familiar with.
So it means that their health conditions are now very good.
Although it's in Gobi Desert, but I have visited there before. In summer, you can see the Milky Way very, very clear at this region. Very, very beautiful.
Yeah, and actually the astronauts saw the Milky Way just beside them just several days ago.
Yes.
And the people on the ground control is celebrating. And we can hear the
this
applause.
location is just very close, but to the southeast of the Jiutian Satellite Launch Center.
I still need some time to.
北京，雄鹰报告，下面有航天员报告情况，报告完毕。
北京明白。
The astronauts just reported that they're in a good condition. If they're good.
Do they need to be examined psychologically because they were in outer space, very different environment from the Earth for 90 days?
They will have a very comprehensive examination after they come back to Beijing, to come back to the astronaut scientific research and training center, just in the space city in the northwest of Haidian district. But during this landing process, there will be some simple examination of their body.
But at least they're traveling in 3-person. If you're a single person, your psychological impact will be greater. But 3 people were always able to communicate and team up.
And this time they are wired. They can be connected with Wi-Fi, so they could communicate with their families as well. I think the children of Tang Hongbo, the child of Tang Hongbo, must be very nervous right now because he could check his homework in person now.
They're not bored during their mission.
The chief designer of the astronaut system mentioned to the media that one day she just received a phone call, and the phone call is from Mr. Nie Haisheng from the station.
Right. Guess who?
Yeah.
So it's not a plan. So it's not a planned call, right?
But they cannot use WeChat or microblog on the station because the ground staff thinks that the internet is not safe enough for the system. So they have to have video and audio connections with the ground, in with their families, but not through the WeChat.
But it's still technologically possible for them to use any app.
So each astronaut have 2 mobile phones for their mission.
Yes. The Tianhe system is the powerful system too.
Yes, yes. So after the Wentian and Mengtian module coming to the station, they will have a 100% coverage.
If you can check the homework, still you can't do anything. You're in space. What can you do?
Yes, of course. Now I'm back.
Because this time through the Tianhe data relay satellite, they watch the Olympic Games in Tokyo.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
And they can watch TV every day.
Yeah, and they can also communicate the ping pong, the table tennis with our sportsmen in China.
北京东风报告，
我是北京，东风请讲。
落点现场测量完毕，落点经度为东经1度弄度动4分28秒，东经1度弄度动4
So
分28秒。
they're checking about the precise landing coordinates again.
Exactly.
Why?
The latitude and the longitude of the
But
precise
the module has
final
been already
coordinate.
recovered.
Yes. Because this is very valuable data
for the engineering team.
Exactly. For the engineering team, how good to evaluate this mission, this flight mission, and also for the improvement of the future missions.
And you can see the flag. There's some wind at the site, and also the location, exact location, is needed for the convoy to come. So the vehicle will come and collect the capsule itself.
That's right.
So they know exactly where to travel to.
September is Mr. Yang. September is it's a pretty good season in Inner Mongolia, right?
Not so good like June and July.
Oh, the June, July is the best.
It's better. I can still remember that in October there will be snowing in the Jiutian satellite launch. It's much more cold than Beijing.
So it's inland, it's kind of chilly during the
北京
morning.
明白。
And that's
祝
going to
贺
make it
神
hotter.
舟12号
So that's why they
你们
land
辛
at
苦了
lunchtime.，
向你们致以崇高的敬
So the
意。
command center
我
in
们在
Beijing
北
is
京迎接你们凯旋。
is congratulating the 3 astronauts for their safe return,
As well as the search team.
as well as the search
All of them
team.
have done a great job.
Yes, it's
Congratulations and
That's
welcome
from the
home.
astronaut.
I've already heard the voice
the
of
best
Mr. Nie
cooperation
Haisheng.
ever.
Which means they came back safe and sound.
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Yang, can you call him right now?
聂哥.
You can dial the number.
He's about 10 years elder than I am. I met him twice before. And he's also very enthusiastic to outreach and space education. And he just, I can still remember during our meeting, he just gave some instructions to those teachers in primary and middle schools about the simulator of the handle for the docking procedure.
What's your
He's very
impression
good at
on
that.
him? What's your impression on him while having
He's
this
much thinner than I am.
acquainted relations? Thinner than
You have
you.
to keep fit.
Thinner than you. That's yeah.
And also, as I mentioned, he's very enthusiastic to the
Should be
to-
very
to-
calm
to people.
person.
Yeah, very and a warm-blooded person.
Have a big heart. And the astronauts all have a big heart.
And Ms. Wang Yaping called him 大师
You mean
兄.
physically? Because their hearts actually change after they return.
You're right.
Or in the space already.
Cardiovascular system
right,
changes.
right.
There were remarkable change. And also, this is one part of the scientific research. As you have asked, the examination, not to only check the body's conditions of them, but also to perform the scientific research about the influence of long-term duration in space to human body, as Yan Song has mentioned, to the cardiovascular
各号注
system
意
and also to other
我是北京
systems of the human being.
神舟12号返回舱正常返回着陆场，3名航天员状况良好。
So
神舟12号载人飞行任务取得
it's been
圆
assured
满
that
成功。
the health conditions of the 3 astronauts are fine and the whole mission
You
is
really,
a great
The red
success.
screen.
you,
The
you,
red
yes,
screen
you
is
really
here.
call this a big red screen,
Big red screen is
Yeah.
here.
which means 100% success.
Success, 100%
Successful.
success.
And also, it's very interesting. During every flight mission, including myself, we usually eat a certain amount of baozi to ensure the safety.
Right. And until this very moment, this 90-day mission has been successfully concluded.
Yeah.
Right. So, according from the expert point of view, how would you examine the whole process from launching, from the EVA, from all the experiments that they conduct at the Tianhe module and the return? Do you also give 100% success mark to them?
So you know that for our manned station program, for China's manned missions, we have already
各
mastered
号注
the
意，我是北京，后续按计划进行航天员衣间医保和返回舱现场处置工作。神舟12号返回搜救任务到此结束。
So the
各号
rescue
再见
mission, recovery and rescue mission has been successfully completed. I think
Yes.
the next is to for the team to carry those astronauts out of the module.
Yes.
And we have already seen the chairs.
The chairs
It's been,
already there.
It's ready.
So the mission, the whole mission is successful. You know that just before this mission, we've already mastered the crew transportation technology, mastered the rendezvous and docking technology, and the EVA technology. All 3 fundamental technologies for manned space engineering. But that do not mean we've already mastered all the technologies needed for construction of operation of a station. So why the Shenzhou 12 mission is so important? So it will test all the technologies needed for the future future missions for our operation of the China space station. You know that China is already been a very big country in space field, but still not a superpower or an advanced country in space field. So the operations, the normal operation of our Tiangong space station will be a very important sign for to show that China has already become an advanced country. To fulfill this destination, we must master these critical technology. For instance, the long-term duration of human in space. So this time 3 months, and also the regenerative life support system. The urine we recovered and processed can be drinkable. It is very interesting. And also, the recovery rate of the water can reach to 80%. So all the resources, including the collected carbon dioxide, including the water, including other waste, and also the water vapor in the air can be recovered, can be reused, recycled. So this is also a very important critical technology for the operation of China's space station. And during this mission, we also tested many other new technologies. For instance, the fast rendezvous and docking. We can still remember, Mr. Yang Zhao, during the launch, we only takes 6 hours from the launch to the docking to the station.
That's pretty
so
fast.
This is, although for other countries, for Russia, it has already been a very common routine, but for China, it is the first time for a crewed mission. So this is also a very important technology to be demonstrated. And also the EVA is very, very important. Although you know that we already have one EVA before in 2008 during the Shenzhou 7 mission, but that only lasted for 20 minutes, less than 20 minutes. So this time we have already developed the second generation Tianhe space suit, and for this second generation Tianhe space suit, it can last or work in outer space for more than 8 hours.
And for twice.
Yeah,
and we have carried out twice
we've
skywalks.
already tested twice, and the designed lifespan is 15 times within 3 years. So the two successful EVA shows not only the design of this Tianhe spacesuit is proper, and also you know that the operations in outer space, especially with the assistance of the robotic arm to move the astronaut from one place to another, and also moving from the surface of the station itself. And also we change the positions of the panoramic camera, and also we get some pump system to be assembled outside the station. So all these complicated missions, these operations, just made a very good preparation for the future operations. You know that the EVA is not only for the maintenance, for the construction of the station, but also very, very critical for the scientific research. Many scientific research will be performed in the standard racks inside the station, but a large amount will be operated outside the station. So that is the reason, you know, that we have we call this a backup airlock on this core module. In the future, the Wentian module will have the main airlock of our station. And on the Mengtian module, we will have a manned or a cargo airlock for the cargo. So you see, the operations outside the station is also very, very important. And every day, the astronauts in space, as we have discussed, doing exercise on the treadmill and also on the bicycle to keep their strong, to keep their bodies. This is also part of the study.
And their exercise is it's a mandate behavior in the module. It's not like us on the Earth. So I want to go to the gym today. I don't want to go to the gym the other day. It's okay, but it's not okay for them to not exercise every day. It's
mandatory, yes.
It's mandatory. Right?
It's not just for keeping fit, but it's also part of the research and study.
They need a belt to fasten their body because there is no gravity. So when they run, they need this belt to simulate the gravity. So it's although we already have this kind of instruments on board the Tiangong 1 and the Tiangong 2, but this time it's improved. And I believe that in future it can be better, and we can have other instruments to help the astronauts.
They had to. And they are going to as well to conduct some scientific research. Do you think scientists will be sent up there in the space, in the Tiangong space station in the future?
It has already been chosen. What you mentioned is the third batch of China's astronauts. The selection has been completed. Not only the pilot from the Air Force has been chosen as a pilot or commander of the future missions, but also the engineers and the scientists to act as the flight engineer, the payload experts, or the mission specialists in the future. So in the future, we can see these kind of astronauts on board China's space station. And also, it's very interesting that two of my friends, Miss Samantha and also Mr. pancreas. Two European astronauts has been trained in China, in Qingdao, in the rescue training.
And that's the international collaboration.
It is amazing that although I met them before, but I speak with them in English, but they can speak Chinese.
Yeah.
It's like the astronauts in ISS had to
learn
Russian. Right.
Russian.
And talking about ISS, which is going to retire by 2024, and Tiangong space station is going to be the only space station left in the space to do any universal research
in the outer space.
Right. And so what kind of international cooperation will be carried out in the China's Tiangong space station?
Well, I think probably yesterday you can imagine that there were 3 astronauts from China that's circling around the Earth in their capsule, and 4 American astronauts, commercial crew, that they're in the Inspirations. Yes. So they're probably passing each other and waving through the window.
Yes, yeah.
So they're, I think outer space you have no border and no boundary, and it is an area of international cooperation. But there are 2 sides of the story. On one side is the what we call a militarization of outer space and using new technologies to develop your weaponry system. But in the less sensitive areas, we do have extensive international cooperation with other countries and even with US and Europeans. As Professor Yang mentioned, that we have astronauts from Europe that is training to learn Chinese and to probably going to fly in the same station. And as you mentioned, by 2024, the ISS will retire and will be probably commercialized. So everything will be commercialized by the US perspective, that we'll call it commercial LEO, low Earth orbit commercialization. But international cooperation is mandatory in the future, because if you want to go faster, you go alone. But if you want to go further, that is the case of outer space, you have to go together.
So the reason why they have to learn Chinese is it because that the language in the system operation is in Chinese, or in both?
That for any space capable nation, if it designs a manned spacecraft, usually it's very natural for it to choose its own language, because you know that for any crew transportation missions, we at least have two astronauts have the capability to piloting the spaceship. So it's very important to use its mother language, because in emergency case, this can help them to do the right choice, to do the right operation. So it's very important. Usually, although we as Yan Song has mentioned, it's possible to have international passengers, but they are maybe only the passengers. They can be trained to have the quality to piloting the spaceship. But still, we need the commander to be a Chinese to command the ship and piloting the ship in emergency cases.
Right. Now the astronauts have safely come back to the Earth, and now let's talk to our reporter Sun Ye, who is now standing by at Aerospace Control Center in Beijing, which has just announced the complete success of this return mission. So Sun Ye, tell us what you have seen and heard.
We are transfixed at the live signal, as you were seeing, and of course that was a major moment. And now we have one of the best people to tell us what this is really about. We have Mr. Sun Jing, who is the chief designer of the whole space station assignment at the Beijing Control Center, and he's going to tell us what this means. 您跟我们讲一讲，现在就是您是如何评价，情况如何？
这次神舟12号飞船的返回控制，包括着陆的搜索救援，应该可以用完美无缺来形容。
So he was saying this is the there's no glitch at all. The whole coming back and rescue mission. 您还在这个事情上做了好长时间，不仅这3个月，然后还有整个空间站的任务。您还有什么评价吗？这个时候最想说什么 ？I was asking him what was his biggest thoughts right now.
神舟12号任务呢，只是我们空间站关键技术验证及建造阶段的 第一批的一个重要任务。那么，通过这3个月的任务呢，我们验证了航天员中期驻留的技术，另外呢，实现了航天员利用机械臂进行出舱活动、进行舱外维修的这种技术。此外呢，我们还为后续空间站的神舟13号径向绕飞对接进行了先期的验证。应该说，神舟12号整个任务呢，取得了预期的效果和目的，为今后空间站的建造打下了坚实的基础。
谢谢您，谢谢三老师。
好。
So Mr. Sun was saying that this moment not only means that it's a complete success for today, but Shenzhou 12's mission was a success, a complete success too for the last 3 months. We had a successful EVA, two successful EVA activities, maintenance, a lot of testing and verification for China's space technology, and this is going to lay a very concrete and good foundation for China's future space development. And that was Mr. Sun Jun, who is the chief designer for the space station mission at the Beijing Control Center. And you can probably hear right now a lot of high-fiving and celebration is going on right now at the Beijing Control Center, and we are sharing that joy with you. Back to you.
Thank you very much indeed. We share the success of the return mission as well. Now let's turn to Dongfeng, turn back to Dongfeng landing site, where our Mandarin counterpart is
reporting on what she has witnessed. So this is basically to guarantee the safety of our technauts and no one can get in as they wish. This is simply for the sake of safety concern or astronauts be safely home. And when we were driving on the road, and we saw these shining spots on the right side of us in the air, and they are saying that maybe that is the parachute for the return capsule, but we were not sure because we were driving on this vast Gobi Desert. From the monitoring screen, we saw it's a dot with color, and it's very small, and it's wobbling in the screen. So for our team, we have to send our driver, who is very capable, and he was driving at full speed towards the landing location. And we can see a lot of the journalists, they are swimming to this position. Right in front of me, I have my colleague Wang Gang, who is at the core landing site, and later maybe he can give you some latest updates. But from where I'm standing right now, I can only show you this view, and later, if there is this necessity, I will move closer and give you the latest. All right?
Right, that was the Mandarin reporter telling us about what she witnessed, the whole perfect process of the returning of the 3 astronauts who stayed in outer space for 90 days. Now, as what the Beijing Commanding Center said, it is a spotless process. It is a perfect process without any glitches. What's next?
Until now, the Tianzhou 2 cargo ship is still connected with the Tianhe 1 core module. So the next step, that currently speaking, the Tianzhou 2 is docked to the rear part of the station.
Yes.
And next, it will turn from the rear docking port to the front docking port. And next will be please notice that will be a critical step with the aid of the robotic arm. Will simulate by the Tianzhou cargo ship as the experimental modules in the future to change its position from the front docking port to the side berthing port. So this is a very important and very critical step for the construction of our station, because we never do this before. And in the future, that the next year, after the launch of the Wentian or the Mengtian experimental modules, both have the similar mass of the core module, more than 20 tons. They were first docking to the front docking port of the station, and then with the help of the transposition mechanism to change its position, as I mentioned. But there is a backup measure to use the robotic arm to help to accomplish this procedure, because this is so important for the construction of the station. So after this, just the next week will be the launch of the Tianzhou 3 cargo ship, because that our Shenzhou 13 crew will stay, including a girl, will stay in the station for 6 months. So all the food all the water and all the resupplies will contained in this Tianhe 3 cargo ship. And first, it must go into space and dock to the rear docking port and connect it. And finally, maybe next month, we will launch the Shenzhou 13 crewed spaceship. And it will dock to the station, to the docking port facing the Earth. You may notice already that just yesterday, after the 3 astronauts undocked from the station, they just performed a flyby, as Yan Song has mentioned, and also approaching the station from the bottom of the station. So this is to simulate the docking procedure of the Shenzhou 13 for the preparation of the for the Shenzhou 13 mission, because we have never done this before. In the years before, we only performed the docking either from the front or from the rear part. But it will be, according to the features of orbital dynamics, it will quite different when approaching from the bottom. So this is a very critical procedure. It's time sensitive, and we must test that before. And because you know that the core module only have 3 docking ports, 2 were occupied by the Tianhe 2 and the Tianhe 3 cargo ships, and the Shenzhou 13 cruise spaceship can only dock from the bottom or the Earth-facing docking port.
Is that a reason why we have to use the R-bar radial test?
Exactly. So the Shenzhou 13 mission will be the final mission of our what we call the technology demonstration and the verification phase. So the construction of station has 2 phases. This year will be the Shenzhou 12, Shenzhou 13, and the Tianhe 2, Tianhe 3 mission. All these will be tested, what I mentioned, the necessary technologies needed for the construction and operation of the station. And after the accomplishment of the Shenzhou 13 mission, we will have a very strict evaluation. Notice today that until today, we still call the Tianhe 1 the experimental core module, not the formal one. Only after this evaluation, and we have already verified and proved that every technology and every design is correct. So only at these circumstances, we can rename the Tianhe 1 as the normal, the final or the formal core module of our Tiangong space station. So if anything wrong happened or some design is not correct, we will send another backup or another core module to take the place of Tianhe 1. So still we need some to wait for these kind of demonstrations. And after that, as Dongyan has asked, will be the final construction. During this phase, we will have the Tianzhou 4 and the Shenzhou 14 mission docked to the station, and then will be the launch of the 2 modules, Wentian and Mengtian, maybe in the next year also. And after the 3 modules are connected, we can see that the first phase of the construction of the Tiangong space station has been completed. And even in the future, you have already asked, this Tiangong station is extendable. Maybe orbiting many years later, it is technically speaking, it can have a second core module, which also have multiple docking and berthing ports. With these ports, it can dock more spacecraft, and also it is possible to connect additional experimental modules to this station. So, and it is very interesting that according to the announcement of China Manned Space Agency, it is possible for another country to build one of these modules and be a permanent part of this station. Also, it is possible, as Yan Song has mentioned, a visit of foreign astronauts by our Shenzhou spaceship. But also, technically speaking, it is possible for a spacecraft from other country, launched from other country, to dock with this station. I've seen some news from the social media that the Russia is considering to launch their Soyuz spaceship from the French Guiana. Because you know that their own territory, the latitude is too high and cannot reach our space station. You may notice that the International Space Station, the inclination is 51.6 degrees. Our station is about 41 to 42 degrees. So it's different. And from the territory or from launch site of Russia, it cannot reach our station. So if they can, you know, that's the European Space Agency and Russia has a very close cooperation. So usually they launch their Soyuz launch vehicles in French Guiana, which is very near to the equator. Yes, and in the future, it is technically speaking, it is possible for Russia to launch its Soyuz spaceship from the French Guiana. Then at this point, because the latitude is only 4 degrees to the north, so it is technically speaking, it is possible for the Soyuz spacecraft to rendezvous with our Tiangong and dock to it. And the more important thing is that because you know that we Tiangong space station choose androgynous peripheral assembly system, or the APAS, it follows the international standard, so it only needs a small change for their spacecraft. For instance, maybe the definition of the holes and the pins of the docking mechanism must be changed to adapt to China, and also the readers on board their spaceship will be changed to adapt to China's docking system, and only some small change needed for their spacecraft, and then it is possible for them to dock with China, either a crewed spaceship or a cargo spaceship. So it's quite possible for them. So what I mentioned, these kind of operations.
Let's go to Dongfeng landing site that the astronauts have been carried out of the module, and now
stepping
sitting
out of the module and has been sitting on his chair.
Sitting on the chairs, and they seem to
makeup.
Do
some makeup.
They seem to be in the quite good conditions.
They seem to feel the gravity.
Yes.
The first was Tang Hongbo, who got out of the capsule, and the second is Nie Haisheng. And just now, Boming, another astronaut, just came out of the capsule, and right now they are having a dialogue with those medical staff. And there is some inquiries. So what are they going to do later? And now let me hand it over to Xing Long. So I just got here, I feel very excited. And this is the landing location of the re-entry capsule, and they are in good position when they just landed. Following the principle of convenience, you can see that all of them, they are outside the capsule right now. They are in very good shape, and they are adapting to the planetary environment right now. And we have medical staff that is having a dialogue with them, and they are adding some nutrition. They are sorting things out, and we are still making some preparations. And later, they will be transferred to 3 helicopters. They will have some subsequent medical care, and then transferred to somewhere else. Because I arrived here as one of the first batch of rescue mission. And you can see that this re-entry capsule is in a tilted position when it touches down on the ground. Within half an hour, the first astronaut Tang Hongbo, and then Nie Haisheng. And up until this point, all the 3 tachnauts, they are outside of the capsule. So all the 3 tachnauts, they are in very good physical shape. And later, and they will just stay here for a while, and then they will be transferred to helicopters. All right, thank you very much. So now we can see that the 3 tachnauts, they are sitting on wheelchairs, and they are adapting to the environment of the Earth. And now let's have a quick interview with them. Hi. Good afternoon, welcome back. I'm with the CMG China Media Group, and my first question is to Nie Haisheng.
They're trying to interview the 3 astronauts who just safely got back from outer space. Well, the signal is experiencing some glitches, although the whole process is spotless.
Yeah, I'm really I'm expecting to hear what they say.
Especially you, right, Mr. Yang, to hear from your Nie Ge. Right. So let's back to our discussion. This is a very important step in terms of the whole picture of China's space development or space plan. China is also aiming at Mars and the Moon. So can you tell us more about the other 2 plans, Mr. Xu?
Okay, so we have, similar to the manned mission, we also have 3 steps to the Moon, and also 2 steps to Mars. In fact, the 3 steps to the moon has more or less completed. We are in the next stretch.
The first. All right, let's go back. It seems that the signal has been recovered, and let's see what the astronauts are going to say.
This is just one step in China's manned space mission. I'm one representative, and this is very encouraging for me personally. I believe with the continuous improvement of China's strength and also China's capacity in science and technology, in the future we can expect more astronauts from China, and they will make new breakthroughs, and they will create new records. And as Chinese technauts, we will step out to the plate, and we will continue making contribution to China's manned space mission. My second question is to Liu Boming. You are the first Chinese astronaut who have conducted a extravehicular activity. You are the first tour guide in the outer space. So how did you feel? Well, thank you very much for following our activities, and this is an unforgettable experience in my whole lifetime. The space is a beautiful place. Flying into the outer space again is something truly unforgettable, and it's such a great experience to walk into the outer space on behalf of Chinese, on behalf of all the Chinese, and this is a privilege for me, and I want to express my sincere gratitude to all those people who are working as ground crews. I want to thank the support from all the Chinese people. It is exactly because of your support that we are able to build better space stations in the future. I want to thank President Xi Jinping for leading us into this new and beautiful era, and we will continue to make great efforts so that we can fly much farther, and we can fly much higher, and we can explore the beauty and mystery of the outer space. Thank you very much. So my next question is to Tang Hongbo. Welcome back. So how do you feel coming back to Earth? I feel very excited. And it's truly a great feeling flying into the outer space, and we have just spent 3 months in the outer space, and we have completed a lot of tasks. We have engaged in many of the scientific experiments, and we have been astonished by the beauty of the outer space. I always believe that as long as we work hard, and we will become a better self. Right now, at this point of time, I miss my family. I miss my fellow soldiers and colleagues. I want to tell my parents that Daddy and Mom, I'm back in good shape. I'm in great shape. Thank you very much.
Right, the 3 astronauts are waving to the people who have been witnessing their extraordinary return trip from the outer space.
And just to share with us their feeling right now.
Right.
It seems everything just goes well. They feel good.
And what a relief for their families to hear the simple sentence, I'm back, safe and sound.
That's right.
Very good. So your Niega has come back safely.
Yes.
Yes, and as we just discussed, this is only part of the huge China's space plan. So should we expect manned missions to the Mars or the Moon?
Oh yes, we just mentioned that we have completed a 3-step of lunar sample return, landing and rover, as well as the orbiting, so which is the lunar first stage of lunar programs. Those are robotic missions, including Mars. We have sent the Mars mission, including a lander and rover, to Mars. So we certainly hope that in the coming future, the manned mission, which is traveling or developing in the same parallel with our robotic missions, can merge in an appropriate time where we can land a Chinese astronaut to the surface of the moon. So that also goes along with not only technology innovations but also economic development in the nation. So every space program requires budget and financial resource as well as technologies.
As we can see, sorry, we have to leave it there. As we can see from the Dongfeng landing site, that there's some unique welcoming ceremonies being held with the Mongolian characteristics. That
was a very special ceremony,
very
local ceremony.
Right.
Ceremony.
To welcome
them back. Right.
Yeah. That's my homeland style.
Yeah. And they're wearing their ethnic groups' costumes and sending a gift to welcome all 3 astronauts coming back to Earth.
It's the Mongolian style of welcoming back.
So, Professor Yang, do you have to drink wines when you come back?
No, I'm so sorry that I'm allergic to wine.
Yeah, I know, but the Mongolian style, you need to drink something.
Yeah, usually the horse milk wine. The horse milk wine. So it's very, although I cannot drink that, but it's really delicious.
Are there any prohibitions for the astronauts? What to eat, what not to eat, what to drink, what not to drink?
You're correct.
For instance, liquor should be prohibited, right?
So still, that's because they have just come back to the Earth. They need, as I mentioned, the readaptation to the Earth's gravity. So relatively speaking, comparing to their ordinary conditions, some subsystems of their body are relatively weak. So at this moment, they cannot eat anything. For instance, even in the space, they cannot eat some food if it to give too much burden to their stomach. I have asked. Interesting. In my homeland, in Mongolia, there is a very delicious noodle. It is called the you mian in Mongolia.
Okay.
But this is not fit for the astronauts.
They are being carried. The astronauts are being carried out of the place of the location that they have been found.
So all 3 astronauts will be transferred to a helicopter, which will bring them to the base. I believe.
Directly to Beijing, right?
No, they will first
not by helicopters,
to the airport.
Of course.
To the airport near the Zhejiang Satellite Launch Center, and then fly back to Beijing.
And they're going to have a very strict menu for each meal for them to recover.
Yeah. As I mentioned, the you mian is not fit for the astronaut. It gave too much burden to their stomach.
Yes.
So it's not fit not only in outer space, but also not fit for them just when they come back. So at this moment,
no alcohol for sure.
No alcohol.
Of course.
That's right.
Of course, it's not good for their healthy.
Well, let's talk something.
But it is very interesting that the Russians do brought alcohol to space before.
Did you see this from the movie Gravity?
Is that a real thing?
That's real. And
I thought it was just
people don't understand how they do it because there are very strict examinations before the launch.
I heard that story before. They bring the alcohol, they bring the vodka to the.
But there are also very interesting. That during the first mission of the Gemini program in 1960. In Gemini programs, the astronaut Zhong Yang bring a pie into outer space.
So let's talk about the next mission, the Shenzhou 13 manned spaceship, with another 3 astronauts will be launched later this year, and what will be their mission? And they're going to spend longer time than this time, right?
Exactly. That's the ordinary turnover of each activation team will be 6 months in the future. So although this time we stayed there for 3 months, but not the full configuration. So the Shenzhou 13 mission will continue the technologies for long-term residence in space for 6 months. So at this moment, we can say that it's okay for Earth.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your insights, gentlemen. Well, this is a terrific day for all of us to witness the spotless process.
We're just to witness another historic moment.
Indeed, the spotless process of the 3 astronauts returning home. Welcome back, indeed, sincerely. Welcome back home. And just in time to celebrate the Autumn Festival and the National Day holiday.
And let's just look back now at the Shenzhou 12 return mission.
Thank you very much for watching our special coverage of the return mission of Shenzhou 12.
And I'm Yang Zhang. Bye for now.
I'm Li Dongning. Bye.
分队到达待命空域，报告完毕。
黄河双补完成，华山
明白。
双城发现目标。
北京如音报告，直升机
高山负责，还没在6000米高度。
300秒，北京134落点预报已发出。
雄鹰明白，落点精度为东经。
返回舱着陆。
雄鹰报告，直升机目视返回舱着陆，报告完毕。
北京明白。
东风明白。4号注意，我是东风，着陆点机动搜索。雄鹰。
标纬度为北纬41度37分。东风，雄鹰报告。
神舟12号载人飞行任务取得圆满成功。